some views on Dr. Henry Jeffrey's
Oh yes,
statement.
because he said that he had gravitated towards the APNU and endorsed them because of their position on power sharing. But when you look at their the manifesto that came out, there isn't anything there at all about power sharing.
Except that the APNU has said that you've got to read their manifesto in the context of the other documents that they've put together.
Yeah, but even when you read the other documents, what do the other documents say about the content of power sharing? What does it really mean? And the sharing of power, well, among the ruling
They
parties.
talk, for example, about a bicameral legislature
Well,
in which civil society plays an important part. Well, I'm asking you this. If
What
you
about
take
the center and the regions? The center and the region and the local. Unless you talk about that, you're wasting time.
But if taking all of those deficiencies in your view, where does the PPP lie?
Oh, the PPP will continue things as they are. The rapporteur said that the PPP couldn't find a way to hold local government elections for 15 years, and they don't see democracy really the way they look at it. Democracy, they see democracy, this centralized group of people running things. That's how the PPP sees things. They don't have a lot of time for anything at the bottom there, except if they can control it in the regions and the locals. And secondly, they don't have a lot of time either to bring in people into governance, which the Alliance has spoken about, and the APNU also has spoken about it. PPP see that they alone must run things in this place. They alone must. That's the main difference in government between the PPP and these two parties is these other two parties are willing, at least they're paid to be willing, to bring people into the tent to run government. The PPP has not so indicated.
Where would you? So if you were to weigh them, you'd say the AFC and the APNU in terms of governance structure.
They're willing to bring in people to work together.
But they don't meet your own requirements.
Of what? Oh, my requirement
The
is
abolition is.
Hey, my requirement now them can't reach.
Or most Guyanese can't.
Well, I'm not. I talk about the politicians. They can't reach my requirements. But the PPP sees that they alone must run things. And if they join with the civic, if they bring in the civic, which is Sam Hines and Kwame McCoy and Lumumba, you work under the control of Freedom House. That's how they see broadening a coalition, kind of coalition. It must be a PPP thing.
So you couldn't find the PPP model acceptable at all?
No. In this country, 51% or 52% or 55% cannot run this country. We know this, that half the people are excluded from governance and didn't support the government. This country cannot run with only half the people running the country. We know that from the history, from the experience. And I think as a general rule, no one party here could successfully run this country.
The social areas of the manifestos.
Well, I don't think they've addressed them adequately because you talk about labor and jobs and unemployment. And if you listen to the media and all the interviews that the journalists have been doing with people in the villages in the community, they talk about jobs. There are no jobs. Whether it's WIM or Linden or Charity or Essequibo, there are no jobs. People, they talk about it all. There are no jobs in this place. And not one of them has put together any real plan for job creation because they believe that the private sector, this so-called private sector engine, which they hope to get going, will do the jobs. But the government has no plan for jobs other than to see if they can attract
capital.
No,
we're not talking about just the government now. We're talking about the
parties.
The principal parties.
No, they haven't figured it out. They're saying the private sector will deal with that. That's what they're saying. The private sector, they will employ the people.
But isn't it true that it's government policies can, in fact, drive private sector employment and investment?
Oh, yes, and that's what they're all saying. But the fact of the matter is that the private sector is not going to do it.
Why?
Because where they're going to see the Sand Spring develop. Sand Spring said they will employ 500 or 800 people in the bush doing gold. You still have unemployment problem at Linden and Wim and Charity and Buxton and Pleasance and Cove and John because there's nobody there to create the jobs. The government has to get involved in economic activity to get those people working. Not Sand Spring. They're not going to go there. And some people coming to do bauxite, and some people coming to do Aurora.
But that is not true, Raymond. Young, particularly African Guyanese, traditionally they've gone out of their communities to work in bauxite, to work in gold, to work in...
Well, Sand Spring and the bauxite people and the Aurora gold there will take 1,000 people. But you still have to have economic development all throughout Guyana.
And the model of things like the cooperative
The
development.
cooperatives and the local initiatives, agricultural initiatives inside the communities and the villages, who's going to do that? They need a push start. They need startup capital. They need a push start. They need help to get that done. Not everybody's going to go and work for Sand Spring. You know, Omai did employ 800 people at one time.
Yes.
Went to Suriname and sent home all of them. Sent home all of them when the goal finished. So that's not no model that could work here.
One of the areas that could have been touched, I'm not sure if it has been touched, this business of the minimum wage.
Oh yeah, nobody has dealt with it. No. Nobody has dealt with it. There's nothing in all the manifesto dealing with this question of the minimum wage. The wages is a low-wage economy, and all of them want to keep it as a low-wage economy. And they talk about raising the, some of them talk about raising the minimum, the pension, raising threshold and all that, and raising the pension to 11,000 from 7.5 to 10. I mean, it's a very unsophisticated approach at dealing with these problems.
Do you think it helps? We've had some perhaps ironic crossovers. You've got Peter Ramsarup, Joe Haynes, and Dr. Joey Jagan, three of the most rabid capitalists joining the PPP. You've got Rajendra Bisesa, and you've got Moses
The left wing has
Nagamudu.
gone to the right-wing party.
Is that good for Guyana?
Well,
Is that likely to bring about changes within those parties?
hardly likely. Moses Nagamoto and Rajendra Bisesa cannot change the ideological orientation of Truckman and Ramjatan. And Ramsarup and Haynes and Joey cannot change the ideological orientation of say, Ramatar. Although they and Sam Mines are in the same wavelength, because Sam Mines is quite a right-wing fellow inside the Civic. But we see Ramatar as a traditional old-style socialist from the old Jagan days, from Eastern Europe, Czechoslovakia and all that. But now I guess he just goes along with the tide, as they say.
But unless there is a change from the Jagdeo-inspired people, the Eddie Boyer, the Brian Young, the Brian James, and all of those people who have made millions and millions, sometimes billions, haven't they been the ones who have driven economic policies over the past few years?
Well, I would say those gentlemen whose name you call, they're personal friends of the president. And they probably influence him, and he has his own views about the world. I would suspect Donald has his own group of personal friends that will surround him in time to come, if he wins. I keep saying that, if he wins.
Don't you think that those people, all those contractors,
You mean Eddie Boyer and Brian Young and Brian James and Ramrup, they wouldn't necessarily have the influence with
No, you didn't allow me to finish my question. Don't you think they have done quite a bit in financing this PPP elections campaign?
Oh, well, all the three parties seem to have a lot of money now.
But
PPP, no, PPP has the most money, it appears to me, of all of them. And it is clear to me the businessmen have contributed substantially to the PPP and to the other parties. And the Guyanese in Toronto and New York, they've also contributed heavily to all the parties. And what is happening now, what you're seeing now, a small party like the Justice for All or the TUF with Garrido Low can't run here anymore. A small party wouldn't be able to run here anymore. You will have to group together with a big party that could be well funded. A small party wouldn't be able to run here now. You're talking about big millions to run here now.
But the point I was making, if you're saying that the business community, the contractors, all these major, Tiwari, Ben, and all of those, if they have done a big part in financing campaign, does the principle, the saying, who pays the piper will finally call the tune, or there is payback time?
I think in the PPP has its friends who are in the business community. The president has his own personal friends who have done not so badly
like
on this. Ramrup and all them from New GPC and so on. They have done well, but the contractors who do work for the government, they will continue to bid for work whoever wins.
Because they got a capacity.
They have capacity.
You're saying then that all these so-called crossovers are not likely to have any great impact?
No, they don't bring crowds with them. They don't bring support. Although Moses, I think, if anybody is to have any difference or make a difference or have an impact, it will be Nagamutu and Borbis somehow. But Gillian Barton and they don't. Barton and Rajendra and Joe Jack, they don't have
Joseph
a consistency.
Hamilton.
They don't have a consistency. No, they can bring them. But Moses does have some support of there, it appears to me.
You talk about, we talked about the deficiencies in the Constitution.
Oh, yes.
We have seen where, not quite a lamed up presidency or government, but a government 1 week, 2 weeks before elections, go about acting, and Jagdew actually said he's going to see that people get money even after he becomes president.
Well, I don't know how we could do that.
Nope.
When he comes out. When the new man is sworn in, I don't know how we could.
But tell me your views about these matters.
What he's trying to do is to, which is very odd in the law, he's trying to make sure Sharma is closed down in December month after he comes out. That's fine. That's very odd. I hope the lawyers look at it. That an outgoing man could make a rule for the new administration to carry out. I hope the lawyers look at it.
The recent developments, though, you saw it, the airport which was announced in Jamaica.
Yeah.
The 1.82 million acres of land for Vaitana was announced in India.
We have a lot of that recently. We have the bauxite deal announced, the Sand Spring deal, another gold deal for Aurora Gold. You have the airport deal, the Georgetown Hospital ribbon cutting. You have the Lenoria, a lot of ribbon cutting for the whole weeks, and days, and they run up to this election.
What do these things say about free and fair elections?
Well, dishonest behavior.
No, but what?
I said it. I have an opinion. This thing is not a fair election. I said that many times. I can say it again on the eve of elections. I'm not convinced that these elections are fair, because of the behavior of the incumbency of the incumbent party. And as far as the NCN, a lot of people have been complaining about the NCN. They've gone to GCOM. The NCN is continuing the same old nasty ways. No wonder they're called the nasty communication network. They're a nasty set of people. I can say that. And thoroughly unprofessional. They're political hacks down there running that place.
Well, one hears that one of the very top people there is busy working out of Freedom House and Red House on the PPPC campaign.
You're not talking about Fuzzy, are you?
I didn't call a name.
I could call his name. Before Fuzzy went there, he had an office at Freedom House. He's totally unprofessional. So the NCN management and management team, they're a nasty set of people. They totally ignore all the complaints that be made about them, and they just do what they want to do.
But GCOM has come out with a statement saying that the media and the parties have largely met the requirements of the media code.
I didn't read that report, but
that's reported in the press today.
What paper you reading? Mirror or
Starbuck News?
Starbuck it is, but I didn't get my Starbuck paper today.
But
I'll have to go online.
Well, I'm telling you it is. I'm asking you to comment. That by
NCN is a nasty set of people. So everybody doesn't watch Channel 11. He should watch it. Then he'll know what's going on with NCN.
And this thing about Jagdew, I mean, carrion crow and vultures is one thing.
The whole behavior.
Now this thing about calling somebody a jackass.
Well, all that it's uncalled for. It's unnecessary. It's unprofessional. It's unpresidential, and it doesn't do credit to the campaign.
Do you find it ironic that it's the PPPC campaign manager, who happens to be a minister of the government, who makes the most complaints to GCOM?
Yeah. He like a crybaby. He complains all the time. After do all it, then he goes and complains. Yeah.
It's probably good strategy,
I don't know if there's any strategy.
You beat up somebody, you go and say
you go complain. Yeah.
Parson throw a brick at me or
That's
something
correct.
like that.
Yeah, you go and complain. That's correct. But the NCN is the nasty communication network.
But things like
N for nasty. Go ahead.
The airport, we're saying the engaging the government of Guyana and the people of Guyana into these high-value, loan-funded projects.
Yes. On the eve of your departure from government, I guess the government people believe that they're going to be there forever, and it doesn't really matter. you'll get a kind of seamless transition from one group, from one president to the other president with the same old group, so they don't think it's a big problem. But it ought to be challenged, all of these things.
I'm talking with Raymond Gaskin, and we're discussing our final program before the Monday's elections. We're talking about politics, of course. We'll now take an ad break.